Okay guys, I'm back. What am I doing with a MIDI device? Well, one of the things I'm going to be doing is building a rack. You know, them things that they have with all the 19-inch things in and all that. Well, I used to have a, what's it called now? A Triaxis, that was it, from Mesa Boogie. I got rid of that, but I stuck with the rack idea because I'm old. But it's cheaper than buying all them foot pedals and then doing dances over the floor, so I decided to keep the racks and I built a new one. And the reason I built a new one was so I can show other people how to do it. It's got a MIDI radio, it's got one of them 8 switcher things in there, it's got a G-force in it, it's got a BBE sonic maximizer, that sounds good, and it's got what else, a Lexicon something or other, and you know, one of them things with the little lights that pulls out. That's all nice too. But I was driving it all with the Marshall amp, you know, the JVM410HJS Satriani amp. I came across a problem. When I actually wired this thing in, I could make the Marshall amp work and nothing else, or make everything else work and not the Marshall amp. So there was something funny going on. And it all boiled down, I think, at least, to the MIDI. And how it was all routed and throughs and MIDI ins, MIDI outs and all the rest, and basically there wasn't enough of them. So I went into my friendly eBay. Let's see that. Let me just get this down here. We'll zoom in. Went to my friendly eBay and bought one of these. Well, what is it? Well, it's a MIDI box that cost me, I don't know, $29 or something in China. You know what they are. It's got in, out, a USB connector there, which funny enough, the power thing on the rack has a drive for that. And we've got in, out and in and out. But you can configure this in a number of ways. Basically, like this. I don't know if you can see that. Let's get in really close. So you can configure so that these 4 come in and those 4 go out, or you can configure, it's quite good really, like that one, or like that one, or like that one, or like that one. So there's a lot of combinations. Oh, 2 more on the back. And what I like about this, actually, let me get back. Yeah, what I like about this, it's got 2 sides and that's it. That's the end of that. Comes with a cable. Actually, just thinking about it, I wasn't going to use the USB power on the back of the unit, because out of that comes a little one of them little LED lights so you can see in the back of the rack. I decided to do this instead. I got a little mains thing with a USB on. And I plug this into the back of there. Like that, all nice and easy, and now it's mains driven, which is just perfect for the rack. So what I'm able to do is to take that one input and have 4 outs, which is exactly what we need to do, and that's the little review, a mini review of a MIDI box 4x4 USB MIDI through merge for $29 I think it was on eBay, and it looks quite useful. It might even work, who knows with that eBay stuff. We shall see. Anyway, there's the mini review. Watch out for the rack review and all the rest of that gubbins that goes with it. The MIDI Raider's pretty cool. So you're going to see a hands-on with that. There's a G-force in there. The BBE I'm going to talk about and why you want one of them in your rack. And you really do need a rack for a lot of this stuff. And I'll see you soon about that. Excuse the Baldunican top. It was a gift. You know how it goes. Well, hey guys, here I am. Back in the studio. What I wanted to do, for some time in fact, was to make a video about a rack and how you take that rack, how you'd integrate it with your amp for starters, and how you could program these things with a MIDI pedal on the floor. For this one, I've got a Rocktron Midi Raider down here, which took months on end to arrive with me, but it's here now, and oh, you're down there. it's here now on the floor, and I'm going to be showing you that a bit later on. Now, I want to cover what I've got in the rack and some of the problems that I had actually making this damn thing work and making it sit on the top of this Marshall amp, as I like to sit them. I've got one over there just off camera that you might have seen before. But this one comprises the following. It's got this Samson Power Brite. It's called a PB10. It's very nice. Got little lights going in it, so when you're at a gig you can get this all lit up if it's a bit dark. Very nice. But it also it has about 8 or 9. I was lying. It has 8. So it's got 8 outputs, and they're all managed, if you will, by this 10 amp fuse here, which is one of them resettable things. So if you get any major problems on your rack, this will just take it off and save your life. Nice. You've also got an unswitched output here which feeds from the input, so you've got 240 volts to go somewhere else if ever you want to do that. Really useful little device. It's not really that much to say about it, except that it does work, and if you turn this one off here, it turns the lot off, which is quite good. So you've only got the one off and on, if you will, for the whole rack, which is nice. Next down in here is, I've got a Lexicon MX300. Now, I bought this on some frivolous excuse of making a rack, but in actual fact, I haven't even plugged it in. There was a reason I haven't plugged it in, which I'm going to cover a bit later. And I'll get around to plugging it in when I get a chance. But once you understand what the reason was, it will become more obvious to you. So that's sitting there waiting to go into the setup with all the switching, as is a lot of other things actually, but that's just sitting idle for now. Below that I've got, this is a AKG DSR70. Well, what's that about? Well, what it's about is you take your guitar and you plug it in that end, and you plug this in this end. Just if I can zoom in a bit. There you go. Here it is. And on the top you've got this little switch that you can sort of press, and there it is. You can see, a better look, you can see that it's on. I'm going to turn it back off for now. Then you can slide that back over. Now this runs off some regular batteries in the back here. It can sit down on your belt, so it's all pretty good really, that is. Very nice, seems to work. And this DSR70 actually is a twin channel thing, and what's good about it is you could actually have 2 guitars going through this, going off to different places or different amps and different this and different that. So you could actually make 2 guys to be working off wires, or you could have maybe a vocal off it, or a guitar off it, or this off it, or that off it. The world's your oyster when you've got one of them. Of course, the thing with them, the problem with them is that that's so expensive, it's unbelievable. It's about 600 or 700, well, £450 I think it was, and that was as a returned item. But as you can see, returned items, let me zoom in and see if you can see close enough. Yeah, that's it, that one there. The returned items are pretty much as brand new. And that was from Thomann, by the way. You heard of Thomann? Yeah. Well, they're European boys, but don't worry about it. You Americans have the same thing in Guitar Centre. Well, below that, I bought this second hand. This is TC Electronic G-Force, and if anybody knows anything about G-Forces, they were quite an amazing piece of kit, because you can actually very easily set up the paths pretty much like one of those fractal things. You know which one I'm on about. So you could do that actually in this a long time before you could do it in that other thing. And the fact is, who knows, maybe they had one of these before they designed that other. Who knows? It's a bit like Les Pauls and PRSs, but that's another story. Anyway, here it is. It's got all these effects, and there's loads of them. But you can also get a little card that fits in here. If I was to turn that off, better look. There it is, it's off. You don't get the card with it. You zoom in on that as well. There it is. Here we go. This is what they call a G card, custom artist preset card for the G-Force. Very nice if you've got enough money like everything. So Tony was going to be clever, you know. I was going to buy one. I hate to say this, but I was going to buy one and copy it onto another card and then send this one back. Because on the internet, that's the sort of thing they said on the TC Electronics website. Oh, just buy it, you know, copy it onto the card and send it back. Well, I did, but I didn't because I couldn't. Here I am. Because the fact is, you can't get these damn cards for love nor money. They bastardised this one to stop you. I bought another card for about $10. Sorry, didn't work. So I'll just keep that one in there for now. You can sort of copy it into the memory. Is it can fit back? Yes, it is. There it goes. Oh look, tells you what it is. Mono delay, very nice. And that's one of the criticisms actually with this unit. As well as having these, okay, it's waking up. As well as having these mono effects, it's got stereo effects. Now, it's all a little bit strange, that is, because if you've got a stereo setup, well, you want stereo effects generally. But if you've got a mono setup, you want mono effects generally. So you're either going to sit here for hours on end, well, not hours on end on this one, actually it takes a few minutes, and then store your own presets into its memory, which you can store a whole bucket of, or you're not going to use the stereo ones for the mono amp. Simple as that. Or you're not going to use the stereo ones, no, the mono ones for the stereo amp. Let's get this the right way around. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't even know what I said. Anyway, there it is. A G force, not a G major, as per the other amp over there. And this G force, one of the most useful things I found with it is that, and I demoed this somewhere else, probably at the end of this, whether this effect is in or it's out, you don't hear any difference. So let's imagine you turn all the effects off, but you still have this in the loop. Actually, you can't tell it's in the loop. If you balance up the volumes here, the ins and the outs, right here, you can see them on the finger, those two there. If you balance those two up, well, you can't tell it's in or out of circuit, and that isn't the case really with a lot of stuff. A lot of the stuff you get today, you can tell when it's in circuit and when it isn't. You take that G major over there. I haven't tried the G major 2, I haven't got enough money for that. But that G major, you can tell it's in circuit, and I don't know what to say about that. Some people like it in, some people like it out. I hate it in, except when there's an effect. Okay guys, here's a few little things to do with the TC Electronic G-Force. And I just wanted to show how through the rack, when you have the effects with your amp, that the G-Force doesn't actually affect the tone really in any way except for the effect. What you got here is, I've just got this set on reverb, but it's not getting through anything at the moment. Now it is. When you hear, you don't actually hear any difference, except for the reverb, of course. So we move on to something else, maybe a bit of chorus, nice fat chorus like that. Here it is. Standard. And without it. Just something else. Dynamic delay. moving on, let's move on. Let's let you into another little secret. And I didn't demo this one. But just trust me, most people do. Some of you do. Next item down. I bought this second hand too, and this was an eBay thing. And it's in stereo in case I ever want to be stereo, because I'm like that, I think ahead. But I can use one of the two channels. This channel over here, let's zoom into it. It's called a BBE 462 Sonic Maximizer. Now, the thing about it is that you've seen these BBE Sonic Maximizers you can get on the floor. They come in a little box about like so. Yeah. Well, this is a rack version, and there's two of them. But I can tell you now, when you switch this in, and you play a little while, and you get the bottom end set up, and all the treble and the rest of it, all very nice. When you switch it back out, you sound like shit. The truth is that that thing there is going to do things for your sound that you cannot comprehend. Trust me, the problem with it, and there is a problem with it, is that when you switch it in and you play a while and you switch it out, like I said, you go, oh my god, what's happened to my amp? Well, nothing's happened to your amp, but that's how it used to sound without it. Like I said, an amazing piece of kit. It's two channels, so you could set it up for a stereo rig later on. I think I paid, I don't know, £60 or something. That's $100 for this one. Or maybe even less, I forget. I'm getting old, you know. But the fact is, you can turn it in and out, just like that, on either channel. And you can switch it in and out with the next thing I'm going to talk about in a minute. But listen, if you've got any amp that you think you could improve on, don't go and sell the amp. Just get one of these and put it in a rack, a bit like this. Or just put it even in the loop and leave it on all the time. You don't need to be clever if you don't want to be. I just wanted to show you a rack and some of the ways that you could make your sound better. Okay, well, having all this kit, if you think about it, it's a bit like, well, how am I going to switch it all in and out? Well, there lies the problem. Because you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because they're stereo if you want them to be, remember. I've only got 8 switches. Switches, you ask? What's that about? Well, I'm going to tell you. Well, basically, the more you fill this up with effects, and you can put foot pedals around the back, remember that, so you've got your favourite foot pedal, you can put that in circuit, as it were, and drive everything off the mains as well, which is also a massive time-saving thing. And you can just switch that pedal in and out with the next item. Well, let's zoom in a bit now, look at the next item, because it's all exciting stuff. And really, if you're going to build a rack, you're going to want one of these. This is called a Patchmate Loop 8. It used to be around years ago, and they discontinued it, but now they brought this Patchmate Loop 8 back out again. And when they did that, they also took the floor pedal down there, and that used to be about $1,200 or something ridiculous. And what that was about, I might as well zoom out, look at my ugly face. What that was about was that the actual unit that the floor pedal was made of was like an extrusion of aluminium, and it was blue. You'll see them around. I forget the exact name of it these days, but it's the same thing. This pedal here is like that other pedal, except they made a tin frame for it. So all the guts, all the settings, all the way it works is exactly the same as the $1,200 or £800, £900 one, except that this one costs about 300 and something pounds. I think it's £320, which is about $500. I'm not sure of the American price, but it's exactly the same. So when you've got that pedal down there, I'll show you. Oops, excuse me, I'll show you in a bit. And you've got this switch here. You can switch in and out. Let's zoom in again. You can switch in and out up to 8 different channels, if you will, or ins and outs. So on the first one here, I've actually got the G-force. On the second one, I've actually got this, so I can just turn that on like that. Now that's in circuit, and I can store it by just pressing this. So if I go to a new preset on the pedal, if you follow me, I can turn this on, go to the new preset, save the new preset, save this, and then every time I come back to that preset, what's going to happen is it's going to switch both of them on. Oh, let me turn that back off. Now why is that great? Well, it's great because on one of the 8 of these, you might put your favourite external pedal. You know, the one that you normally use on the floor. Well, that's great for when you're using it on the floor, but you know what it's like, you sort of tap dancing all over them. I fancy doing that after Christmas, didn't you? Get rid of the fat. No, you tap dancing all over the floor and you can't see the pedal and you can't this and you can't that. In fact, hold on a minute. Here I am, I'm back. You see this pedal here? It's a Clyde Deluxe Wah Wah pedal from Fulltone. Great pedal. The trouble is, mine used to be white. What happened? Well, I got this mate of mine and he had this one. And he said, you know, hey Tony, can I come over there and swap my pedal for yours? And I said, well, I don't want any inferior pedal. He said, no, it's newer than yours, better than yours. It's got this other thing on the other side, this buffer level. I don't use any of that. Well, anyway, I'll swap it for you. I'm back. So sure enough, he came over and he swapped the pedal. As you can see, I've got the black one. And I said to him, I said, well, what's all that about? He says, it's terrible. When you get on these stages and the lights are down, I can't find the pedal. I keep missing it. And that just shows you, if you've got some pedal that you really like and it's a bit of a dark coloured one and you're on a bit of a dark stage, it could be a bit of a problem turning it on and off. Whereas if you've got a setup like this, all them pedals can be in the back. You know, you don't change them while you're playing, do you? They're all pre-set up. And you can add them to these channels here. So you could have up to 8 different pedals or effects units or anything else you want to add in, like the BBE 462 Sonic Maximizer. It's a great way of working. I'm not going to go to the nth degree of showing you every last simple thing of how I did this, because I could be sitting talking for hours and most people know that I do. It's just life, that's the way I am. Bit of a dirty rat. I don't know why I bought this, but dirty rat, cycle shop, calm down, cycle shop. There's a cycle, I love it, it's awesome. I walk around in it sometimes and people go, it's that dirty rat. Anyway, but let's get back to this. This is far more important than any dirty rat on the pictures. It's alright. So what we've got is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, four things in here, but they could be 8 if they were in stereo, couldn't they? So what they did with this Patchmate 8, coming back to the Patchmate 8, is they allow you to have up to 4 of these. So imagine having a rack this high, yeah, well we've got 4 more holes. Well then you can have 4 of these. Well, 3 more holes actually, but we have 4, trust me. So what you do is, instead of having 8 of these, you've got 4 of them. That's 4 8s is, come on, yes you're right, it's 32. So we can have 32 different things we can switch in and out, which is a bit awesome really when you think about exactly what the power is that you could do with a rack like this. Now one of the things I do want to talk about, you can see the way I set them up. I have the 4x12 down there, I have the amp here, I have the rack on the top. In fact, if I was to zoom across, there's a Mesa Boogie Road King there with a 4x12 underneath it and this on top. Well, fancy that, that's exactly the same as this, but it isn't. This particular amp is the Satriani JVM410HJS from Marshall. It's the newest one I bought. And you know, it had those old-fashioned feet on it that came on the old plexi heads. You know, the one that's like a round sort of thing, and if you push on the amp it moved around a bit. Well, that's great if you're in 1970. But even at this age, I'm not in 1970, I'm in today. So I put the rack on the top, like this, and I just leaned on it like this, and you could really... It was moving backwards and forwards like you wouldn't believe. In fact, it was moving backwards and forwards so well, I could see it going flying across the floor. So what did I have to do? Well, I took off the legs off the amp, and I got 4 of those hard rubber black ones. I think I got them from Thomann. They weren't dear. You can get them from GC, you can get them from anywhere. You can probably even get them from a furniture store if you're that tight, I don't know. But anyway, I put them on, taking anywhere. The whole thing's moving now, the 4x12, the whole thing. So it makes it very firm. And I did have a different rack as well. I won't tell you which name it is, but it doesn't really matter. But this other rack was about this wide, and it was about this high, and it went back nearly and hit the wall. Well, that was a problem too. So hey Tony, why is that a problem? Well, let me explain. In fact, let me go and get the thing. Hold on a minute, this is fun. And here I am. Now, some people will think, Tony's gone mad and he's gone into this weight training and all that crap. No, I'm afraid I haven't. I'm the same old fat git I've always been. But here I am with this 8-pound weight. Well, let me just put this back, it's too heavy. I'm back. Okay, well, what was the weight about? Well, by the time I got this big fat rack and it was going back to the wall, and I put these units in, and you want to bear this in mind when you're making one of these damn things. When I put the units in, 60% of the rack space going that away towards the wall was empty. So guess what happened? Yeah, you're right, you could put it on here and you could do that with it and it would fall on the floor because all the weight was at the front. So I had this fantastic idea. Go and get an 8-pound dumbbell. No, not Dumbo, a dumbbell. And screw it to the back of the case. I did that, but it didn't work. Then I needed 2. Listen, once you get started adding 16 and 20 pounds to make the case work, something's wrong, right? So Tony got it wrong. I should have bought this rack, because this is the one that's currently sitting over there. This is a gator rack, by the way, and it's supposed to be a short rack. Well, I'd say that's about 15 inches. Yeah, it's about 15 inches deep, and they call that a short rack. If you go and get one of the regular ones for these effects units, honestly, you're going to end up in big trouble. And don't forget, when you put it on the top of your amp, depending on your amp, move the butt out of the way. Let's have it where it matters. This amp is about it's about 10 inches across, or 9 inches across. So you haven't got oodles of space, you know, that's going to hold this rack in place. What you want is you want the centre of gravity of the rack being in the centre of the amp, and then you're not going to have any trouble. I've never had the other one fall off in what, I don't know, I used to have even a tri-axis over there at one time and all that other good stuff, and it hasn't fell off in 10 years, so it didn't fall off either in this one. I like that too, did you notice that? Hey, let me just zoom in on that, it's just one of them things, you know the way I am. Tony Mckenzie, rock, yeah, guitar, and he just goes round and round. See, it's the little things in life that you really want to have, isn't it? You'll be on the stage and you've got your name in lights. Oh. That's awesome. That's just absolutely awesome. Okay, well, where do we go from here? Well, where we go is we go down to the floor and have a quick look at the pedal, and then I'll come back up and explain a little bit about what we did up here. Like I said, I can't go to the nth degree. I can show you a little bit of a few pictures around the back, and I'll show you the pedal, and I don't really want to say if you've got a question, send me an email, because I've got a life. So just have a look at it, and most of it will become obvious when you want to put one of these together. Have a good look at what I'm doing and how I do it and that sort of stuff. Let's go have a look at the pedal anyway. Now guys, there's not a lot of room down here where I am sitting at the side of this, so you see the odd hand? It's me. Don't worry. Well, what have we got? Well, here's the Rocktron Midi Raider. You can see that at the back of it I've only got one cable, and that's one of the great things about the Rocktron. I better move that back to be where it should be on the camera. Yeah, one of the things about the Rocktron is that that MIDI cable's got a couple of extra pins in it, and you can feed them off back to the Patchmate Loop 8, and that'll power this. It's all very nice, and it's set on #1 preset at the moment. Now, it's set on #1 preset because I haven't bothered to program the names in yet. I've only got so much time. Well, how do you do it? Well, you can say second, settle, and that will take us into the various modes that you can set this unit up to. You can have bank mode. Let's just carry on. You can go along by using this button. bank is 15 banks. So you can have actually 5 banks and 10 buttons for individual effects. I've got them set up as 15 banks because I don't really want to be messing around all day, you know, turning individual effects on and off. You might set it up with 5 and 10, or 10 and 5, whatever takes you. Information, name on channel 1 is a Marshall. Guess what? The Marshall's up there. Yeah, and it's set up as MIDI ID 1. There's a good reason. I'll come back to it later. Carry on along. The Marshall programming starts on 1. So some amps or some units can be start on 0 or start on 1. Marshall starts on 1. This is initialised and all sorts of rubbish. I don't really want to do any of that. But I can go up. When I get back to this, I'm going further back. Yeah, when I get to the Marshall on channel 1, and I can go up to channel 2, and that says PTM8. Well, that's the Patchmate 8. That's what I called it as a device, and that's on channel 2, or MIDI channel 2. And if I carry on up, I've got the TC G-Force on channel 3, and on channel 4 I've got channel 4, fancy that, and channel 5 I've got channel 5. Anyway, there it is. I'm back to where I was. But as I go across these, you'll see that the only thing that's actually changing at the moment is, well, that you can see, is this this number. But can you hear that amp? Hear it now. Hear it? It's gone. So I'm actually switching the amp. In any case, with this you should get the idea of where we're going. We can set these up in many ways, and we can do a load of other stuff. So it's a very simple thing to set up. Just a few presses of the buttons. Recommend this pedal. Over there I got a ground control, and much harder to set up than this one actually. But that's not the big fat ground control that you often see, Ground Control Pro. That one over there doesn't even have a proper name to it, but you'll see it. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's got 12 pedals, and I've had that one a long time. But that's the MIDI Raider, just quickly. Let's go back up and take a look at the top. Okay, well, quickly looking at the rack itself, you'll see when I change a pedal, something happens. Well, that went to 2, and that switched this one on to 2. I'll go back to 1. It is back off. So, like I said earlier, you can have these 8 if you've only got 1 unit. It's all that easy to switch, but actually, from any one of those buttons, I could switch the entire rack into any combination. And I can also have 2 pedals on the floor. I might have one for, let's say for example, the length of time of delay, and the other one could be the volume overall. So I can control the volume of the entire rig, and I can control, for example, this delay, which is quite impressive. So once you get going with it, this sort of thing might look a bit old-fashioned, but actually, in my opinion, these are sort of probably the best value you can buy. You take your average pedal that costs anything from, say, I don't know, £150, that's $200, all the way up to £400, £450, well, that's $700 just for one pedal. Well, what value does the G-Force have? Well, it has a massive value because there's loads and loads of parameters in here, and it's all very easy to set up, to tune. And there's the, if you look at that, if you can see that, what we've got in there is CPR and rev. CPR is compressor and rev is rev. I can change the orders of them, and the tracking and the stereo and the mono and the this and the that. All quite very nice, really. I can do a load of other stuff with it, but the point of it is I'm not here to talk all day about this unit. I'm talking generally about the rack. This one isn't yet in there, and part of the reason for that was I had MIDI trouble. and it wasn't any old MIDI trouble, it was Marshall MIDI trouble, in particular with the MIDI Raider. So I had to work around that, and I'm going to show you what I did with that, what I'm going to do with that, because I've only just got the thing to do it with. And bear it in mind if you're going to build a rack of your own. Okay, well, I did tell you that I had a bit of a MIDI problem. MIDI life crisis. I'm kidding. What happened was, when I set the pedal up, the MIDI Raider, to a particular channel, the Marshall wouldn't work. It wouldn't switch. And when I set it to a different channel, it still wouldn't switch. So what I found with this particular setup, in this particular way, was that unless the Marshall amp was set up as channel 1 on the MIDI, it ignored everything. I couldn't set the modes, you know, channel 2 red mode, channel 2 green mode, or whatever. So that was a problem, and that was one of the reasons why at the time I didn't actually wire in the Lexicon. Also, because Tony being a bit stupid, I went and bought this and I put it in there and I thought, well, it sounds like a good idea, but really I don't really need that unit when I've got this unit. The G-Force actually has everything that's got in it. Even though they're Lexicon, this sounds just as good to me, I don't know. So maybe that'll go on eBay, maybe it won't, I don't know. Or maybe I'll take it out and put something else in. I've got an Eventide in the other one. That's an awesome piece of kit, but once again, once you've got an Eventide and a G major in the other one, there's no real point of putting more racks in my view. You know, you really want to start putting pedals in, and you keep coming back to this Patchmate Loop 8 with its 8 patches. So those pedals, you bang them in the back of the rack. I'm going to turn it around and show you quickly what I did. And you know, you can mains power them and all that stuff. You don't have to worry about batteries or any of that anymore. So that's where I got to with the rack up to date. But this thing here, well, this is the be all and end all fix for that Marshall staying on 1. And there it is. Oh, look, 2 of the legs have fell off already. Ridiculous. But I don't need legs. I've got some of this commercial Velcro and it's going to sit on the side of the rack in there. And there you have it. So that's the bit about the MIDI box. What I'm going to do is flip this around, or wheel it round because it's a bit unwieldy. And we'll have a look at the back. Oh my God, what do we do? Well, here we are, round the back, so to speak. And if you put that down on the top, it's out of the way. If you take a careful look at it, it's not as bad as you think. Well, what have we got? Well, we've got a send out to the amp that comes into here at the end. And we've got a return that comes out at this other end. There's 1,000 ways you can configure this. This one's set up to be in mono. You can set it all up to be in stereo, right? So could be quite good. But basically what happens is you got a send and return. If you look at that, you can see that. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit closer with any of this. You got a send and return right by my fingers, and then a loop that goes to the next one, and then a send and return, and then a loop, and then a send and return, and then a loop. And we don't send and return anymore, we just return back to the amp with this one from down here. But one of the things I did, just while we were looking in the back, is put these little tags on. You can get them from our friendly Chinese on eBay or wherever else, doesn't really matter, they're all the same. And then you know what you're looking at. That's the G-force in, that's the G-force out, that's the BBE return, that's the BBE send, and so on and so forth. This one here actually is the MIDI that's coming out of the amp into this G-force. And what I really wanted to do was to take the out of the G-force and feed it across into these other units. The only problem is they don't work. Hence the little box I'm going to get. If you look over here, can you see where my finger is? That there is a power supply taken from up the top, comes down, runs round there, goes down there, and connects into the wireless. which at the moment isn't wired, but it won't be on for it is. You just add it in on this feed in. So what you're able to do is to fix all these things to the back of the rack. There's a section over this other side which you can't quite see. Let me zoom out a bit. There's a section over this side just dying for that unit to be fitted down there. You can see that? So that's where the other MIDI bit's going. It could even conceivably go at the top. I wouldn't put it at the bottom, I tend to put them at the side. So, well, it might look a bit like a bit of a rat's nest. There's a few things to notice that are important when you're doing this. For example, can you see that the quality of cables is very high? I haven't got any of those cheap coloured things. You know the ones, we've all seen them. We're probably using them right now and some other effects or between your little pedals or whatever you do. But what I did is I bought the quite good ones. Yeah, what I did was I bought really decent cables. They're all mono, but they are actually quite decent cables. They're not really the cheapest things around. Okay, so you want good cables like that, plenty of shielding and that sort of thing. And also the other thing that you might need is cables to link the MIDI together. Now you might say, well, these are just 5-pin DIN plugs. Anybody's got them, haven't they? Well, yes and no. These particular ones, you can see that, actually say MIDI on them. And I think you'll find that matters because you can get interference on these damn things. These are proper MIDI cables, and you only want to use the proper MIDI cables, otherwise you're going to come completely unstuck sooner or later, and then you'll get all sorts of other problems. And anyway, I could eliminate this issue when I had that problem of the other channels not being able to switch, because I know that the MIDI cables are good. So that's it for around the back here. I'm going to go back around the front again now, and then we'll have another quick chat about what's left to talk about. So there's a quick shot of the actual setup. What we've got down here is a MIDI radar, 4x12, Marshall JVM Sach, and then the rack itself above that, which we've already covered. I hope that showing you my basic setup on this particular amplifier with its MIDI radar and all these other units in the rack has given you something to think about, especially where those other pedals are concerned, you know, and all that cost there. You can literally spend very easily on half a dozen pedals £1,000 or about $1,500, which is ridiculous really. Rack equipment has become less common if you're not a professional. You'll notice that most of the pros, I say most of the pros, the Petrucci's of this world and those sort of people still are using all the racks, and I don't see a lot of guys that are still using racks, and I think part of the emphasis away from racks is by manufacturers actually. I think part of their agenda is to get you to think that floor pedals are actually better. I don't think they are. I think they're less value for money. I don't think the electronics in them are any better, and I mean no better at all than what you see in these racks here. And there's lots of stuff in here that will give you better sounds, I think, than most of the pedals. Not all of them, because there are some great pedals out there. So when you're considering what you're going to do, whether you're going to go dancing around or whether you're going to go down the rack route, consider carefully some of the things I've said. And you can get yourself in a bit of a tizwas, you know, in sorting out all the MIDIs and the rest. I mean, I went around in circles at first, but it's actually quite straightforward. And don't forget, the advantage to me is I've done one before. I've got the other rack just over there, which many people have seen many times. It still sits here in the studio as my main rig actually. One of the things I am going to be doing at some other stage, not in this video, is maybe review one or two of these items. Now obviously something like a 462 Sonic Maximizer isn't going to make me an hour's video. I like to have long videos because I like to sit and talk and discuss what I find, as opposed to a 5-minute let me sell you this, because I don't sell anything. All I do is tell you what I find, and that's should be useful for a lot of guys. That's it for now. Don't forget to go to TonyMckenzie.com. This is going to go in much more depth, in fact, on my website, TonyMckenzie.com. I've got a new hat. You can read it better. Look. Oh. and basically you'll get more technical information as opposed to this video where I'm always limited on time, but it doesn't seem to stop me rambling on for hours. Have a good one. Happy New Year, by the way, if anybody's still thinking about all that. Now get out of here.
Bye.